Thank you guys for coming. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason Pritchard. A little quick backstory and introduction on me. I spent 15 years working in corporate America. I reached a point where I was very disenchanted with my job and my life, and I wanted to make a change. I made that change. 2014, I decided to pull myself out of the rat race, and the last 10 years have been a very, very wild ride, and we're going to share our story today and all the ups and downs. One of the things that I will tell you is that I guarantee you I would not be standing up here today if it wasn't for my wife, Jen. And so I want to talk to you guys, and Zuber talks about this all the time, how important it is to pick the right partner and then also communicate openly about that. So today, what we'd love to do is share our journey, the ups and downs, and hopefully give you guys some learning lessons so you can circumvent some of the mistakes that we made over the last 10 years. I want to quickly, before I pass things over to my wife, just thank Zuber for this opportunity. I have spoken on a lot of stages, but this is the very first time Jen and I have been able to do this together. So give us a little bit of grace. Thank you very much. Definitely a full circle moment for me. I appreciate you guys.
All right, so before we came up here, one of the guys in the back said, "Do you still get really nervous every time you go on stage?" I said, "Oh, fuck, this is my first time." So there you go. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Jen. Besides being a wife and a mom, which is my first priority, I worked in education for nearly 20 years, specifically in college admissions, and then ultimately as a high school counselor. I loved my job. I loved my W-2 job. It was what I was meant to do for that season in my life. And then eventually, in August 2022, I decided I was able to finally leave. I thought you were switching me sides. Sorry. I was able to leave my W-2 job, and since for the past year and a half, I've been working side by side with my husband. We share an office, so when I say side by side, we're like 2.5 feet from each other.
Literally side by side.
Literally side by side. And I've been self-managing our rental properties. I have been helping him plan events. I get to be his paparazzi, so I tell him what side is better. And then honestly, I just have to deal with everything that comes up on any given day. So whatever fire we have, he does not get to deal with it. Usually I get to deal with it. All right, so with that, I'm going to pass it back to my husband, who is going to quickly take you through our 10-year journey. And then we're going to slow it down a little bit, and we're going to go back to 2005, 2006, and I'm going to tell you guys what that shit was really like.
All right.
Sorry, not doing my job.
All right, so let's take you quickly. I'll give you the condensed version of the last 10 years of our journey, right? So I was in corporate America from 1999 to 2014, burned the boats in 2014, and have not looked back since. So I officially left my job in 2014, and it took me almost a year of working every single day, grinding, getting on the phone, going on appointments, looking for deals, until we did our first flip in 2015, okay? How many people are in that stage of their journey right now? They're just getting started, they're working, doing that. I'm so glad that you guys are here. This is what's really important, okay? So I want one lesson for you guys to take away. From here to here, I couldn't tell you how many times I almost quit. I couldn't tell you how many times I almost went back to my corporate job and made the call to my old boss and just said, "Hey, look, listen, man, do you guys have a spot open?" And here's the thing that I've learned, okay? I've met lots of people in this business that have never done a deal, and I've met lots of people that have done multiple deals. I've never met one person that did a real estate deal and then never did another one. So the most important thing that I would tell you is do not give up. If you're where Jason was in 2014, just keep going, because once that first domino falls, things will start to snowball and you really start to gain some momentum. And so you'll see how fast that momentum picked up for us. 2015, after almost a year, we flipped our first house, and the snowball started to build and build and build. 2016, purchased our first rental. 2019, look at this momentum. Rental number 50, okay? So we scaled very, very quickly, okay? 2022, I was able to check off one of the big goals that I had when I first got into this business, was allowing my wife to make the decision to retire early from her career in counseling. So 2022 was a big year for us. 2023, we eclipsed 100 units total in our portfolio. Most of our rentals are in Central California and Fresno, where we invest. Our rental portfolio is now worth above $10 million. And fast forward to now, we have flipped 400 deals, This year, my team is set to do 100 deals. We invest right now between Bakersfield and Stockton, and we have a transactional side of our business that does fixing and flipping and wholesaling and agent business, and we take the money that we make from the transactional side and we transfer it over to the investment side, right? So we take all the big chunks of income that come from the transactional business and we reinvest it into rentals, and we've just grown that, right? So one should feed the other. So we're gonna obviously dive in. There's a lot to unpack between this point to that point. Jen's going to take us back, like I said.
So you look at this, and I heard you in the front say, wow, like, I would be in the audience too. I'd be like, God damn, like, all right, but like, what was that really like, right? So let's go back to 2006. Okay, I think we met in 2005, 2006. We can't figure it out, so we'll just say 2006. Okay, so Jason and I came into our relationship, I like to say, as semi-responsible adults. We were about 24, 25 years old. This was actually Jason's first house that he bought, right? And I say that we were semi-responsible because when we came into the relationship with each other, we had already been through failed previous relationships. We already had kids, right? And so we knew what it was like to pay bills. We knew what it was like to pay daycare, karate, all of that stuff. But we also, besides like all the baggage and the trauma that we brought into the relationship, we also brought with us student loan payments. We had credit card debt. We had 2 car payments. This was a time when people were taking out money on their house, right? Because they could. Well, we were over-leveraged on the house. I say we because then I took responsibility for that as well. It was him, okay? But I refused to pay that HELOC bill. So we were both working W-2 jobs. Our kids were 3 and 5 years old. And Jason and I, like when we met, we were so, like our energy was so magnetic. He was just meant for me, okay? So we decided to do the stupidest thing that people decide to do, and we moved in together after 4 months. It was like the dumbest shit ever, okay? But it worked out for us. The good thing about us is that we talked about finances very, very early on in our relationship. And I told Jason, I said, if we're going to do this presentation, it has to be authentic to who we are, right? I'm just going to tell our business out there. And he's like, Jen. I said, no, we're going to do that. So
I'll say this really quickly.
Okay.
Jen would definitely be a great private investigator. These are actual emails from 2008. She has all of these things just saved, everything. She has our entire communication history saved somewhere on her computer.
There wasn't text messaging when we were together. So this was how we talked all day long when we were in our W-2 jobs. So this is from June 30th, 2008. I'll tell you, I know you guys can't read this, so I will tell you basically what the top one says. Jason's telling me that we have $8,000 in credit card debt right now, and we need to work out some kind of freaking plan to start paying this off, okay? This is where it gets funny. Same day, he says, our goal with eBay should be to try and sell $1,000 worth of stuff to pay off one of those cards. And not only that, but then he said, I'm going to put my laptop on eBay tonight. Okay? This is my favorite one because this is where we were, you guys, in 2008. Like, we were the most normal couple. Then we are still the most normal couple now. So I'm going to read this one to you. I told him, I was like, Jay, $15 to $20 on beer isn't the smartest move either. That's an easy one to cut out. Probably a healthy one as well. We can also cut out the cigarettes. I know. He smoked. I didn't. But when we went out together, I would smoke because he thought it was cute. So I would smoke only those times. Wait, go back. Okay. So I also said, now the girls will relate to this. So I get my lip waxed. I get my eyebrows waxed. You know, the hair you don't want to grow. I said, I stopped doing my eyebrows and my lips twice a month. And I'm only going to do it like once a month. Okay, I also stopped getting a French manicure on my toes, and I'm getting them polished now for $7. This is where we were in 2008. Dollars mattered. We had to cut down, we didn't have that much money, right? So we had to save every dollar that we could. The other one was him telling me that we need to pay off our credit card before we buy a new car. Okay, Jason said I have every single email. I have thousands of them. I told him, you know what we should do, Jay? I said, we should show him our budget. And he goes, oh, yeah, that'd be fucking cool if we had that. And I said, I have it. So these were our monthly expenses in 2008. Why were we trying to pay down our debt? We were trying to pay down our debt because we wanted to buy a house. I love being in Jason's. I loved our house. I was happy at every point in our relationship, but in order to grow, we needed to buy a house together. So our monthly expenses, you can tell how old we are because on our joint expenses, there's Blockbuster. Okay? So I would go through, I would say, these are our joint expenses. You'll see that there's the house payment on there, right? Whose house was it? His house. How much did I pay? 50% of that house payment. Because I didn't want Jason to ever think that I was with him because I wanted to live in his house. Okay, I wanted him to know that I chose him every single day because I loved you. Okay, I was fiercely independent. It's kind of a flaw of mine. So we had our monthly expenses, our joint. Then I had my expenses. He had his expenses. And what's most important is over here. So you have your incoming, your outgoing, and then this is how much we had left over every month. So I had $1,033.70. Jason had $941. That's not, we're looking at this and we're like, God damn, how do we do that? Right? But we did it. But it took us getting on the same page, creating a budget, figuring out where we're going to cut. Is it your nails? Is it this? Is it that?
I think the important takeaway was we were always fiscally responsible, right? And in my opinion, it's impossible to get to where we're at right now without getting your personal financial house in order, right? And we're going to talk about how that kind of propelled us to where we're at, but that's a big takeaway, guys. If you're not talking about your personal finances, you're not on the same page about not only your personal finances, but what you're going to do with the leftover to invest, it's going to be difficult to get to where you want to go.
Once we paid off our debt, we're able to buy a new house. This was the house that we lived in for 10 years. I absolutely love this house. Paid off some debt. We were living the dream in 2009. Paid off some debt, purchased a 2-story house in a master plan community. We paid $286,000, which was a stretch for us. Okay, I'll tell you. Well, we short saled his house. Then I had to buy this house, so that's why we couldn't use both of our incomes to buy this house. We bought a new Tahoe. We got married in 2012. Like that, I was happy. That's all I needed, right? We were living the dream. That was as far as my mindset was. That was the dream.
So I'll take it from here. So 2012, we were living basically what Jen said, what we thought was the American dream, right? We had the nice house in the master plan community. We had 2 young kids. The kids went to school at the elementary school there. We had the car payments, all of that stuff, right? But I found myself in I'll call it a transitionary period in my life in 2013 and 2014. And I was very, very unhappy. And I was projecting a lot of that unhappiness into my marriage. I was projecting that unhappiness into my relationship with my kids. And after a lot of self-reflection and internal work, I realized that I was unhappy because I was not living up to my full potential. And I can remember sitting in my cubicle at my old corporate job and just being so disenchanted and realizing to myself, I was put on this earth to do more than what I was doing at this time. And I just found myself in this space in 2013, 2014, where I said, if I don't do something right now, this is probably never going to happen. Can anybody here relate with that type of feeling? Has anybody ever kind of gone through that? I think we all have to a certain extent at some point, right? And so for whatever reason, I was always intrigued by the idea of real estate. And just like all of you are, right? I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was young. I was always intrigued by the idea of buying properties. And I just felt like that was the right investment vehicle for me. But for the 15 years that I was in corporate America, I was trapped, right? And they give you just enough money to be able to push your dreams off again till whenever the market's right, right? When things get better, maybe we'll, do this or that or whatever. And I just knew at that time that if I didn't make a change, nothing was going to happen. So I sat down with Jennifer, and we came up with the plan. And I think the big learning lesson that we have, a lot of the things that we're going to share, this is one of the most important, is that if you're doing this with a spouse, you guys have to be on the same page, and there has to be a plan if somebody's going to make the type of leap that we made, right? I'm not suggesting that you have to burn the boats and you have to leave the job and do that. That was just the right thing for me because I felt like things were, in reflection, things were so difficult for me at the beginning. If I was still at my corporate job and trying to do that while I was investing, it would have been too easy for me to convince myself that real estate investing is just not for me. It's for those people on social media, it's for the people on bigger pockets, but this isn't really for me. So I had to operate with basically no safety net, because I'm the type of person that I just need that type of pressure in order to make things happen. So that's what we did. So Jennifer and I sat down and we came up with the plan. And our plan was basically to cut all of our expenses down as much as we could, right? Cut everything down to the bone. And we would try to make things work financially by living off of Jennifer's income as a high school counselor. And I was going to take a year to try to make this real estate thing work, okay? And here was my launching off point for those of you, just so you understand. I have zero construction experience.
Zero.
I had zero. I remember we would buy some of these houses at the beginning, and Jennifer would be like, this house looks like a strong wind will just topple it over. Like, you can barely fix anything at our house. How are you going to take this house and then turn around and sell it to somebody else, right? And so I had no construction experience. I had sold one primary residence. I had no network. I had very, very little money. I was actually walking away from a six-figure income at my corporate job. That was the launching off point that we had, okay? So I was just figuring it out as we go, right?
We paid off all of our debt during that time, right? When we were just on one income.
Yeah, and it was amazing what happens when you're forced to do something, guys. We paid off Jen's student loan.
$26,000, which doesn't seem like a lot, but back then, it was a lot.
Yeah, $26,000. I mean, we maybe had a couple $1,000s in our savings account at that time, right? So we got really, really serious, and it's pretty amazing what would happen when you have to do something, when there's no other option, right? And so we paid off all of our debt, we paid off all of our car payments, and we basically got down to the only debt that we carried was our mortgage, and then that was it. And so for me, this is what I did. This was my role.
I gave him 1 year. You have 1 year to figure this shit out, right?
She's pretty fierce right now, but one of the things that I'll tell you is this, okay?
Not just right now.
Yeah, not just right now. But one of the things that I'll tell you is that another lesson that I can share with you guys is that I said earlier that I wouldn't be standing up here if it wasn't for her. And if you really think back to kind of the idea that we had as far as real estate investing, here was my plan. Let's cash in our entire life savings. Let's liquidate my 401k. Let's take a second mortgage out on our house. Let's max out every single credit card that we have. And let's take all of that money, right? Seriously, let's take all of that money and buy an investment that I have no idea how we're going to do it or what we're going to do.
And I have no construction experience.
It sounds absolutely ridiculous saying that out loud in front of you guys, but that was what our life was back then, okay? And so I say that to say that I would not be here without Jen's support. She always believed in me, even more than I believed in myself at the beginning. So if you are the spouse, the partner of the person that is like the driver, I'm the visionary, I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the one that's the risk taker, I'm the one that will take action. If you are the partner, what I needed at that time was just somebody to believe in me and to believe in our vision, right? I'm very good at casting a big vision, but I was struggling with self-doubt and all these other things, and there would have been so many times that I would have just walked away if it wasn't for her support, right? So if you're the person that's supporting that person, you have to get behind them. You have to trust them. You have to believe in them, right? And that's what we did.
And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? We've already been there, right?
Yeah, we had overcome so much, guys, to get to that point that we had already done the hard part, right? And so for us, it was really like I didn't burn any bridges with my corporate job. It wasn't like I couldn't go back. And so it's like I knew it's like, hey, if this doesn't work out, you know what I mean? At least we tried. And I was okay taking that chance and doing that. So for me, my job was basically every day. At the very, very beginning, it was lots of self-education, lots of bigger pockets, lots of podcasts. I spent a lot of time just focusing on learning the business. I did not have money to invest in any type of education or anything else. Like we were literally like bootstrapping everything at the beginning. So it's 100% possible to do it. And the information's even more accessible now than it was in 2014. So the blueprint is there. I'm a big believer of that. Nothing is proprietary. There are no secrets in this business. Like anything that you need to do to recreate what we've done is already there, out there, available for you for free, okay? And so I was just out there scouring the internet, learning. And my biggest thing that I did at the beginning, and this is where I see a lot of people that are struggling to find a deal, they're all over the place, right? They're learning about marketing, they're learning about seller negotiations, then they're doing sub two, then they're looking about private financing, then they want to buy rentals, and then they want to do this. Real estate investing, to me, guys, is a linear process, meaning you have certain steps that you have to follow, and they have to happen in order. And step number one is, where is the deal going to come from? Where is the deal going to come from? And if you unpack that, there's lots of things that go into that, but it doesn't matter if you have a construction company and $10 million in the bank. If you don't have deals to leverage those other things it doesn't matter, right? So I spent all of my time focusing on that at the beginning.
And I'm going to give my husband a lot of credit right here, because normally you have these gender roles, right? I mean, in my family you did. My dad was a mechanic. My mom, she was a stay-at-home mom and raised us. At that point in our life, Jason was cleaning the house. Jason was doing all the dishes.
I was.
Jason was taking the kids to school. Like, my sole responsibility, that I thought, was to go to work and to provide income. Jason was also, at that time, we also rented a room out in our own house downstairs, and he was turning that property.
We were an Airbnb host before Airbnb was very, very popular. And I was literally, it's funny reading back with these emails, selling a laptop on $1,000. I always had like this hustler spirit. I was like, whatever I need to do, right? So we would have times where we would just do all of these things. And that's right. Jen said that about the gender roles, and it's very interesting, like now thinking about that out loud. It was like I was cleaning, I was taking the kids, I was doing all of this stuff while trying to do this, because I understood how big of a sacrifice we were making, and I wanted to make her life as easy as I possibly could.
So Jason was doing this. He eventually got his first deal in just over a year, right? The year happened, and then I was like, come on, dude, right?
So I've told Zuber this story, and I'll tell you guys this funny story too. So if you're the driver and the entrepreneur, sometimes you do need a little kick in the butt, right? And so here's a story that I remember that I like to share. I remember we were like 9 or 10 months in, and we were just not getting any traction. I was putting in work, and I was doing all of the stuff, and I was going on calls, and I was going on appointments and doing all of these things, but there was nothing kind of tangible that we could fall back on. And I remember this to this day. Going upstairs to our bedroom, and Jen was like, hey, we need to talk. And we sat down on our bedroom, and she goes, listen, this isn't working. And I don't care if you have to go get a job at Walmart or Starbucks. If you're not able to make some money from this pretty soon, we're going to have to find something else to do. And I'm not even joking. Within 45 days of that conversation, okay, I had 3 deals in contract. I went from 0 to 3 just with that little kick in the butt, right? So it's important to have the support. You can clap. That's good. That's clappable, yeah. It's important to have the support, but also it's important to have accountability too, right? And I needed that help just shifting that gear to be able to kind of break through that plateau.
A lot of memories are coming out. Jason, where did you sign that first contract?
Taco Bell. I remember. Seller called me from a bandit sign, one of those We Buy Houses signs, and we signed a contract in Taco Bell. We spent 3 hours there sitting down talking.
And he didn't have a copy, so he had to ask the people at Taco Bell to go use their copy machine to give the seller a copy.
I downloaded some 20-page contract off the internet, and I didn't have any idea what I was doing, and we sat there for 3 hours, and the guy signed, and he goes, well, where's my copy? And I was like, I don't know. And I had to ask the manager of Taco Bell to make a photocopy of the thing for me. So
eventually, this got really, really tough, because only one person can do so much, right? Jason had to wear so many hats, and I'm going to let you talk about what that was like.
So fast forward a little bit past that first deal, right? Now we're getting some momentum. 2014 to 15 was a lot of hard work, a lot of struggles. Almost quit more times than I could tell you. 2015, got that very first project off the ground. We did 4 or 5 more in 2015. 2016, we doubled that, bought the first rental, and now we've got some serious momentum going, right? Now we're really, really moving and grooving, and things feel like, wow, all this work that we were doing.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working. It's like, wow, this really works, dude. It's really cool. So then fast forward another 2 years, okay? Remember that big leap that we made from 2016 to 2019, where we went from rental number 1 to rental number 50 in 3 years, right? So that growth, it was not just buying rentals, guys, right? Remember what I said at the beginning. We have the acquisition side of our business, and then we have the investment side of our business, right? So the acquisition side always fueled the investment side. So in order to get to 50 rentals, I had probably flipped 100 houses by that point. And it was me and a VA, and that was it. And I had like no other help. We were just getting ready to hire an assistant, but I was doing everything. I was cold calling in the morning. I was going to the projects in the afternoon. I was going on appointments with sellers and closing deals in the evening. I would come back home on nights and weekends and do bookkeeping.
You were still watching the kids, doing everything
Still watching
else.
the kids, still cooking, still cleaning. We had about 12 or 15 rentals at that point that I was self-managing. I was running around signing leases like at people's jobs. It was the craziest thing that had ever happened. And so for me, things had scaled so quickly, it became apparent to me that I needed help, okay? And we're gonna get into some of the struggles that we had, because this was a point where I think for us, the business was growing and becoming very successful, but it created a lot of friction and tension within our relationship.
I kind of knew he needed help. Honestly, it sounds like crazy hearing him say that. Like, you guys in the audience are probably thinking like, hell yeah, he needed some help, right? I was like, I didn't see it. Sometimes I heard it. He was like, I fucking need help, right? But the thing was, I didn't know what help he needed, because I was a high school counselor. I didn't know real estate. I didn't know construction. I didn't know bookkeeping. Like, what help was I going to give him? Right? So Jason, and it's like a big rock that he was carrying on his back for so many years. And
there was a pivotal moment where maybe 5 years into it, okay, we had got to a space where we had about 30 rentals. We had all this stuff going on. And I looked at Jennifer and I said, you know what? If, God forbid, something happened to me tomorrow, if I got struck by lightning or I died in a car accident, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea where our properties are at. You have no idea who we owe money to. You have no idea who owes money to us. We have no succession plan set up for the kids, for anything else. Like, we have actual assets now that we need to, we need to take care of, and we need to put stuff together. And so we had a kind of an argument over this, because I was like, we need to get a trust set up. We need to have all of these things spelled out. And I remember Jennifer not being involved in like writing out anything with the trust. She was like, I don't know, just do it. I don't care. Just tell me when to go and sign. And I did everything, and then we went with the attorney to go sign the trust docs, and then there was a do not resuscitate like order as part of the trust docs, and so
I was so pissed off.
She was like, "What do you mean you're not gonna resuscitate me?" And I was like, "Listen, I don't even know. I'm just signing this stuff." And so it was like, you don't know anything. You don't know any. Like, we came from just a normal background, so nobody talked to me about trusts and wills and like all of the. It was literally just figuring this all out on our own as we're going, right? And the thing that became apparent, it goes back to this point, is that we were living somewhat separate lives as far as our professional lives were concerned. I was all encompassed in real estate. I ate, breathe, and sleep real estate. I loved it. And Jennifer was consumed with her counseling position and her job, and she loved her job too. That was always her dream, right? And we did not grow apart in our personal lives, but professionally, right, where you're spending 10, 12 hours a day, we were completely on separate pages. Right? And so one of the learning lessons that I would tell you guys, and what became apparent to us, is that communication and constant communication is key. And if you're the driver in this relationship, you have to be very specific with your partner about the things that you need help with. And I would encourage you guys to set aside time to just talk on a regular basis about what's going on in your business. It doesn't need to be a formal meeting. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, but 30 minutes a few times a month at the beginning, just to download and transfer what's going on. Here's what we accomplished this month. Here's the deals that we have in escrow, right? Here's, whatever. Here's our list of private money lenders. Here's our mortgage. Here's all of this stuff. You guys have to talk openly about that.
And it wasn't that I was incapable of taking in that information, because we're both pretty smart individuals. He was just too busy to even talk to me about it, right? It's easier just for me to do it than to tell Jen how to do it. Right? So this is when we said, okay, Jen, you need to start considering leaving your job. Okay? So think about that. I was in education for 20 years. I was great at my job. I was worried about leaving it. I was worried about like my identity. My identity was tied to being a great counselor and being there for the kids. I was worried about health insurance. I can't tell you how many times I was like, Jason, we're going to fucking lose our health insurance, right? Not knowing my role in real estate, and then the list goes on. So me leaving my job meant that we'd lose about $6,000 in take-home income, and then we'd have to come out another $1,500 for insurance. Come on. Is that the next one? I think so.
So here are the big learning lessons as we move to close on this. the things that, I'll start with the things that I wish I would have done differently, and then we'll talk about what we did right, okay? I wish that I had not only been more open with the way that I communicated with Jennifer, but one of my biggest problems is I'm always on, for the lack of a better word. And it's very hard for me to turn off. And real estate can be a competitive business. There's lots of big egos in this business. There's lots of money on the line. So for me, when I go into my office, it's like, here we go, it's game time now, right? And so being consumed with that every day, I carried my kind of naturally a very direct and sometimes aggressive communication style into my relationship with my wife. And I'll tell you now, that did not work very well for me, right? And it's still something that I'm working on now, right?
Yesterday.
Yeah, on the drive up here, while we're figuring our slides out, it was like we ended up. It's just I need to be able to be better at finding and downshifting sometimes, because it isn't okay to treat your spouse like your business partner all the time, right? Jennifer does not necessarily love real estate the way that I do, right? And it's not okay to just have real estate be the dominating part of every single conversation.
True. Last night, I'm going to tell you what happened last night on the drive. So it was like, we're either going to talk or we're going to do, like, is it a boxing match that we're going to go do? It, yeah. So last night, Jason asked me point blank, we're having this whole conversation. He says, Jen, do you love real estate? Fuck. I mean, like, literally silent in the car. And what do you say? Like, I know that my husband loves real estate. I know that it provides, like, this great life for us. I said, no, Jason, I don't fucking like real estate. I don't love it the way that you love it. Right? But I appreciate all the work that you've done, and I appreciate the life that it provides for us. I do. I like it. I don't love it. And if there's a spouse in here that you love real estate and your partner does not, please don't make them feel bad for that, because that may not be their goal.
What did you learn? Can you talk about what you learned?
What did I learn? What would I do differently? Like I said in the beginning, I was very much like 50-50. I need to be his partner, right? I'm never going to be somebody that he has to carry. I would have listened more intently, and I would have jumped in to offer support and help to my husband, even if he wasn't communicating it clearly to me. I should have known better there. I should have known better. I'm sorry.
I love it. Thank you. I didn't think this was going to be a therapy session that came up. I know, it's funny. Let's get to what worked out right, okay? So here's, I think, one of the best decisions that we made, especially at the beginning. We learned how to delay gratification, right? And Zuber talks about living below your means, delaying gratification. There is no chance in hell that we go from 1 rental in 2016 to 50 rentals in 2019 without delaying gratification. So here's what that looks like for us as far as our business is concerned, okay? For the first almost 5 years, okay, we ran the transactional side of the business, the flipping arm of the company. We ran that essentially at a break even, okay? So here's what I mean. We would flip enough houses to just cover the overhead that I had, which wasn't much, right? We spent a little bit of money on marketing. I had some systems and some tools. And we took every other dollar that we made for 5 years straight and just plowed it into buying rental properties. That's the absolute best decision that I've ever made in my life, because 2023 was a little bit of a rough year for people that invest in real estate, right? We took some big haircuts on some deals that we did that we bought at the end of 2022. And we were very fortunate because we've always been fiscally responsible. We've always kept cash reserves. But we made the decision to liquidate 4 or 5 of our rental properties, just ones that were kind of like non-performing and that needed work that we didn't really like, that weren't in bad areas. And that freed up $500,000 in liquidity. And we were able to sleep very well at night. And if all you're doing is on that hamster wheel of flipping and being a high-performing agent and doing, as soon as that money stops, as soon as you stop working, as soon as the deals stop coming in, the money stops coming in, guys, right? So I would encourage you to, and I still have this check framed at my house. The very first time we paid ourselves was almost 5 years in, and it was like $4,300. And the person that was doing our books at the time was like, there's money in the account. And I was like, I know. Well, she's like, there's plenty of money in there if you want to pay yourself something. And I was like, well, how much could we afford to pay ourselves? And she had already done the projection, and she goes, with the reserve target that you want, you can probably pay yourself about X. And I still have that check. And that check, I look at it every single day. It's up in our kitchen. And it reminds me of how important it is to delay gratification. So you can make money, big chunks of money very quickly in this business. But the big mistake people make is their lifestyle catches up with their income. And it never, never stops, right?
Delayed gratification. We're also willing to just put our heads down and just work. Yep. Like, we're very good workers. Yep. So you guys, we made it. I mean, this is just the beginning. I would say, I think you would agree that this is just the beginning for us. Like, we made it so far past anything that we could have ever envisioned in 2006. When we came here today, we said, what do you want, the audience to know? Like, I hope that we conveyed that. We are so normal. We did not come from money. If we could do it, anybody, like literally anybody could do exactly what we have done.
I agree 100%. I second that. I can remember sitting in so many rooms like this and sitting in the back and just being like, wow, that's great. You have X. It's like, how the hell am I ever going to do that? And I just say this to say, guys, there's absolutely nothing special about Jennifer and I. We are really, really hard workers. We communicated very well. We set up a plan. We executed on that plan. And there's been lots and ups and downs, but I would not trade any of that for the world. And I would love to transfer as many of the things that we've learned along this 10-year journey to all of you guys here in the audience. And so I just want to say thank you guys for coming. We didn't get into the tactical side of real estate, but if you guys have any needs in regards to how do you find deals, where is all that stuff going to come, you guys can go to my website. I give away everything for free. All of the stuff that we use literally in our business every single day. From the lists that we market to, the marketing channels that are working, the scripts that we use when we're talking to sellers, the contract that we use to lock off-market properties, the assignment agreement, the deal analyzer, all the things that we do with private money to raise private, all of that stuff's available to download for free on the website. You're more than welcome to go there, take that stuff, and if you have questions or anything today or in the future, do not hesitate to reach out. We would love to be a resource for you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
How was that for a start, huh? Woo! You guys see Jason on the show all the time, but did I tell you, Jen? I'm telling you, right? Didn't disappoint. Well, again, we set this meeting up because, again, every speaker is going to leave time for you to ask questions. So if you're in a relationship and you have questions, we're going to ask you to come to this mic and ask your question. We're going to go till 10 o'clock. And the beauty about Jason and Jen is they're going to stay for 2 days. So if you don't get your question here, they will be around. If you're in the VIP session, they will be at lunch and dinner up there, more intimate. But again, you guys aren't going anywhere, right?
Nope.
All right, let's go. Let's ask some questions.
You guys, don't hold back. Like I said, I'm an open book.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jen. Hey, here's my question for you because I'm right there with my wife on that breakthrough. What are the 2-3 first roles that you took into the business when he brought you in, because you want to respect your line of work and what you do, but also we want to break that glass. We want to get to the next level. What are the 2 or 3 things that you did to say, hey, this is perfect spot for you to help me out here?
That's a great question. Go ahead.
Well, what he did is he fired somebody, and he said, hey, Jen, I'm going to fire this person. And tomorrow, you're going to take over all the rentals. I swear to God, that's what he did. So it was taking over all of our rentals at that time. I still had my W-2 job. So
let me expand. So that's what I did, right? I wouldn't recommend doing that, okay? What I would recommend doing is taking an inventory of what each of you are really good at, right? Because I feel like all of us have these strengths and we all have these things that give us a competitive advantage. For me, my corporate background was in sales and sales management. And so as soon as I understood how a real estate transaction worked, I realized like, wow, this is what I've been doing for the last 15 years, right? We send some marketing out, somebody calls in, lead comes into our funnel, we qualify the lead, we negotiate, we make an offer. So it was always set up for me to do the acquisitions. It was always set up for me to be kind of the face, raise the money, do all of that stuff, right? Jen's skill set is a little bit more behind the scenes with the operational, administrative, the financial stuff, right? I always say I'm great at making money. She's great at keeping money. So it's a really good dynamic when it comes to that. So you've got to take an inventory with your spouse and say, what are you great at? And take those skill sets and lay them over the things that you need in your business. And then you do the same with yours. And hopefully there's not a whole lot of overlap so you guys aren't fighting over the same things, right? So I would start there.
I can sit at a computer for 17 hours and work on a 30-page document. Love that stuff, right? I had so much patience. I can call the tax assessor's office and be so patient, or I can call the loan servicer and be like, why'd you close the escrow account? I didn't ask for that to happen, and be transferred to 17 different people. He would be so pissed off. I would also say, don't just give, like Jason said, don't give her the shit jobs just because you don't want to do it, right? Be very patient.
I didn't. That was it's a little bit of a stretch. Yeah.
Be patient.
All right, thanks, Jason and Jen. Very much appreciated. Now, full transparency, I still W-2. I'm single, but the question, like you kind of see where I'm going with it. So first, had a quick comment, especially about the frequency of communication. 100% echo the sentiments because at least for me, and I'll use with my W-2 as a quick example, like some of the one-on-ones that I have with my manager. We went from like a quarterly frequency to like semi-monthly, and we spend like 5-10 minutes just, hey, what's going on? How's this going? Things like that. Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. Like in the rapport and everything like that. It just like I know what's going on with you. You know what's going on with me, and it's just so much. It flows so smoothly. So the question I was going to ask, when Jason, when you quit your W-2. Now, I don't know whether you already had like reserves or anything like set aside, but it was about, where you focus solely on like basically having like only Jen's income like to support you like runway wise. And then why I'm asking that is like, it sounded like, it was just the 1 year. Was that what kind of, was baked into the time frame, or was it like if you had more already in reserves, could it have gone longer, things like that, or was it?
I'll be honest, bro. I don't know that we thought about it financially to say we have this much money, which creates this much runway. We just basically said if we can't do this in a year, it's probably not going to happen, right? And we did not have a lot of liquid capital reserves like in a savings account. We were cut everything down to the bone, and we had a little bit of a cushion. What I did do was I leveraged my old 401k, which I think had about $85,000 or $90,000. I turned that into an individual 401k. So when I left my corporate job, I transferred it to a different retirement custodian, and they allowed me to borrow against that balance. So the rule of thumb at that time was it's 50,000 or 50% of what was in the account, whatever number is less. So I think I could access like 40 grand. And so it was that. We took a HELOC out on our primary, right? So between the HELOC and that, I don't know, we had maybe 75, 80 grand. And I would take that capital along with proceeds from a hard money lender. I worked with a local hard money lender. I used that money to cover our down payment, cover some of the construction costs, and we floated the rest on credit cards. And so, again, I always say that's what we did. I'm not saying that that's what you guys should do. I'm saying that's what we had to do in order to make it happen. Now, obviously, the more runway that you have, the better that you can have your finances dialed in. I just knew I was the kind of person that when I perform well under pressure. So if you said, hey, this has to happen, I just had the confidence in myself that I knew that I was going to make it happen. But not having that plan, it's just reckless, dude. You know what I'm saying? And so I think you have to have the plan first, however detailed you need it to be for you and your spouse to get on board. And then you have to be an action taker. That's the big thing. I think most people don't have a problem making the plan, but it's like taking that next step and then doing the work every day without knowing and having proof of concept yet. That was the hard part for me, dude. And I had a lot of limiting beliefs that I had to overcome.
Definitely appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Great presentation.
You're welcome.
So I've got two independent questions. My wife and I have a lot of things in common with you guys. So we both came from former failed marriages, and we got married 3 years ago. I was already financially established, and she was able to quit teaching then. So we've got a pretty large portfolio in Lexington, Kentucky, and the surrounding cities. And my property manager is a one-woman show. She has some people that help her, but we've grown really fast, and we're trying to integrate my wife into the management now because it's way too big for one person. So my average unit is a very C-class unit, maybe some borderlining on Ds. I'm not sending my wife out there. It's going to have to be...
He sent me. I still go.
We want to be as anonymous to the tenant as possible. We don't want crazy people showing up, figuring out where we live. So I'm curious what your role is in the management, how you all take care of that, because you want probably some level of anonymous, you know?
Yeah. That's true. I love being anonymous. I love being behind the scenes. So I oversee. I'm not going to give myself credit for managing these rental properties that we have. So my secret weapon, she is the best human. She is my favorite, like just one of my favorite, is a virtual assistant who lives in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. She is amazing. She does all of our lease agreements. She coordinates all of the showings. She basically collects all of their documents, and we communicate via Slack. And she'll be, hey boss, these are the applicants. Which one do you want to go with? Any Section 8 paperwork, anything, she submits all of that. So I would say Althea is our amazing. We also have a maintenance manager who works with our team.
Are you thinking about having your wife come in and take over management of the rentals, or just be a little bit more involved?
Yeah, just assist the property manager.
Yeah, I think, going back to the question that we answered earlier, there's lots of different things that you can do as far as property management is concerned, and I think there has to be a discussion as far as where do you see yourself. I don't want to dictate to you that here you need to do X, Y, and Z. That was my problem, right? It's like, I need this, this, and this, and we should have sat down and had a two-way conversation and just been like, what are you great at, and how do you see yourself having a positive impact in our business? And I would build around that first, because I feel you're going to get a lot further, right? And then slowly integrate some of the crappy work, dude. I love real estate, but there's things that I hate doing every single day, dude. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I wouldn't start with that. That was a mistake I had. So
I would have that one person who's doing it now jot down all of their tasks, and then I would show your wife, and then I would ask her, what of these things would you like to start with?
Yep. Yeah. Document your processes, because especially if you have a growing portfolio, a big mistake we make was all my processes were up here. I was like, I know how to do it, but then she's like, well, what do you need help with? And I would always be like, I don't have time to explain. Let me just do it. You know, and we went around and around in that circle all the time. So take an extra hour or so to document and write down step by step by step by step. Here's exactly how this process works, right?
You're not documenting it. That other person that's doing it now should be the one documenting it.
So you can dictate and say, hey, here's how you do it. You document it. And then you do get to a point where one of the things we're talking about now is we need to delegate some of these lower level tasks, because I need you doing stuff up here, because you can really move the needle for us up here. I don't need you collecting bank statements from our tenants. We can have the VA do that. So building the processes out also gives you the tools in the training library to hand to a virtual assistant, and then your spouse can really help focus on how do we actually improve our business and not being in the business every single day.
Yeah, we've considered getting a virtual assistant, so that's good.
Love it.
One quick question on your flips. 100 flips, you've got a marketing machine behind it. I have relationships with wholesalers. I'll probably do about 20 flips this year. But they all come from the wholesalers. I don't do any of my own marketing. I'm kind of scared to death to be the cold caller, or I just don't want to do it. I know you can hire that out, but am I thinking about that wrong? Should I get my own leads?
I'm kind of a deal junkie at heart. So even now to this day, even though I'm not really active in the acquisition side of it, I still kind of love getting my hands dirty, jumping on calls. I just like that, right? And I understand that that's not for everybody. If you have the success that you have, if you're doing 20 flips, I would encourage you to hire an acquisitions person to help take some of the heavy lifting, the in the trenches work, right? Like the calling for 6 hours a day, you probably don't need to do that. What probably needs to happen is you have somebody that's qualifying and teeing up warmer leads, people that actually are qualified and are motivated, and then you can step in as the owner and do the closing part. Because that way, you have somebody, if your process is set up the right way, where you're talking to people that are interested and motivated and open to the price that you're probably going to offer them. And then maybe you can eventually do that. But I would not say at your level with that amount of stuff, keep those relationships going, dude. Like that's 100%, like you should keep doing that, and then focus on maybe hiring out somebody to help with lead generation.
Sure, thanks.
So we've got time for one more question. Remember, Jason and Jen will be here the entire time, so I'm sorry again.
Please come talk to us, engage us. We'll be
early.
here. Yeah, absolutely.
This is your chance. Remember, all the speakers will have time for Q&A. Get up early. We got time for one more question because we got to stay on task. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you so much for you guys having this conversation. Not one to burn the boats, but it's still very relatable. I just wanted to ask, like, more back to when you were starting without the construction knowledge, without the network. How did you, like, get there? Like, how did you build through that and find a team and build a team? You weren't doing the work yourself, right?
It's not just, that's a really good question. So for me, this is what I always say. Real estate is the easy part. Whether you guys realize this or not, this has been my journey and my experience, okay? Doing the real estate side of this business, that's easy, because if you just show up every day and you commit to doing the work, like Zuber says all the time, you're gonna get so many reps, you're gonna get so much practice in, that even if you're terrible right now talking to sellers, or like me, I was terrible at understanding the flow of a single family fix and flip. I just going there over and over and over and over again and doing the work, I eventually got better, okay? The hard part, guys, is always what's going on up here, okay? That's always the hard part. So that I had so many limiting beliefs, man. I had so many things that were going wrong here. I spend more time focusing on how to keep my head screwed on straight than I do underwriting real estate deals, right? Because that's ultimately what it is. Because even if you have all these other things, if the story that you're telling yourself every day is a negative one and you're living in those limiting beliefs, you're never going to get to where you want to go. So you've got to learn how to get that voice in your head telling you a positive story, right? Getting you and telling you something that's propelling you closer and not holding you back. So it's a combination of doing a lot of hard work. Like, don't get it wrong, guys. Like, I put in lots of hours even to this day. Nothing will happen without that. That's the prerequisite to all of this. But if you're not coming to things like this, getting around like-minded people, talking to your spouse, constantly figuring out how to reprogram the way that we believe about scarcity and money and deals and all these things, you're going to self-sabotage. So you got to work on both.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
So one of the things hosts should do when they put on an event is do something special for the folks that come up, getting them comfortable, share their stories. So something you're going to see all of the speakers get is a championship belt. You got to be unique. Take lots of pictures. Tag them on Instagram. Jason and Jen, here's your championship belt.
Thank you. Our boxing match should be a lot more interesting now.
No, not anything more specific than what we talked about. I just want to stress that we are 100% an open book. I will sit here and spend as much time as you guys need, answer as many questions as you have. There is literally no secrets in our business or anything that got us here. And nothing would make me happier than to transfer everything that we've learned to you guys, and you guys take that and find some success in your life. So I'm looking forward to meeting and talking to everybody.
I will say thank you for letting me share the stage with you, right? But also, one thing that I was not very good at for several years is giving my husband the appreciation that he deserves. And in front of everybody, I want to say that I am so damn appreciative of you. I love you so freaking much, and I'm so proud of you.